The Haunted Tapestry of Corpse Party, a study of its lore and thematic depth. The Corpse Party series occupies a unique niche within the horror game landscape. Originating in 1996 as an independent RPG Maker title developed by Makoto Kidoin and Team Grigri, it has since grown into a multimedia franchise spanning remakes, manga, anime, and light novels. What sets Corpse Party apart from conventional horror games is not merely its gore or shock value, but its deeply layered lore, which intertwines themes of trauma, guilt, and the cyclical nature of suffering with the supernatural framework of haunted schools and vengeful spirits. Beneath its pixelated beginnings lies a mythos as complicated as it is unsettling, an ever-expanding narrative web that forces players to grapple with the consequences of memory, violence, and unresolved grief. The genesis of Heavenly Host Elementary. At the core of the Corpse Party mythos is Heavenly Host Elementary School, a cursed site that serves as both setting and symbol. The lore reveals that Heavenly Host was once an ordinary school, shut down after a string of murders perpetrated by the deranged janitor Yoshikazu Yanabihori under the influence of dark supernatural forces. His victims, most notably the children, became trapped in a liminal dimension, echoing endlessly across parallel timelines. Later rebuilt as Kisaragi Academy, the modern school where the protagonists study, the cursed history of Heavenly Host bleeds through in the form of rituals, hauntings, and inexplicable disappearances. The most infamous of these is the Sachiko Ever After charm, a childish bonding ritual gone wrong that serves as the gateway to the nightmarish dimension. Its deceptive innocence conceals its true purpose, binding participants to the cursed Heavenly Host world at the whim of the spirit Sachiko Shinozaki, the murdered daughter of the school's nurse and central antagonist of the series. Sachiko Shinozaki. From victim to vengeful spirit, Sachiko is arguably the linchpin of the series' lore. Murdered at a young age during the Heavenly Host killings, she becomes the embodiment of the rage, sorrow, and corrupted innocence that fuels the curse. Unlike typical horror antagonists, Sachiko is not purely evil. Her backstory paints her as both tragic victim and sadistic tormentor. Her soul is bound to the site, perpetuating its cycle of suffering by dragging new victims into her dimension. As the series progresses, especially in later entries like Corpse Party Blood Drive, Sachiko evolves into a more complex figure. At times, she exhibits a childlike playfulness or a desire for companionship. Yet her trauma and bitterness manifest in cruelty toward the living. This duality underscores a major theme of the series: the thin line between victimhood and monstrosity, and the way trauma corrupts innocence. The mechanics of the curse: time, space, and fragmentation. One of the most intricate aspects of Corpse Party's lore is its treatment of time and space. The dimension of Heavenly Host is not fixed, but fractured into countless closed spaces, each an isolated bubble where different groups of victims may experience events differently. This explains the contradictory timelines, overlapping character encounters, and repeating tragedies that define the series. For instance, characters may die gruesomely in one timeline, only to appear alive in another, reinforcing the futility of escape and the inescapable pull of the curse. This structure allows the narrative to explore multiple bad endings, each one canonical, within its respective closed space. The result is a multiverse of suffering, stitched together by Sachiko's will and the resonance of unresolved trauma. The Shinozaki legacy and occult elements. While Heavenly Host and Sachiko dominate the narrative, the broader Corpse Party lore introduces the Shinozaki family, a bloodline tied to dark rituals and occult practices. Sachiko's mother, Yoshi Shinosaki, was deeply involved in spiritual research and inadvertently contributed to the curse's strength. Later titles expand upon this lineage, revealing a world where witchcraft, forbidden texts, and ritual sacrifice play a role in sustaining the supernatural phenomena. In Corpse Party Blood Drive, for example, the Book of Shadows becomes central to the plot. This cursed grimoire offers the power to manipulate life and death, but at catastrophic cost. The book serves as a narrative device to escalate the stakes beyond Heavenly Host, suggesting that the curse is part of a larger web of dark spiritual forces that extend into the wider world. Themes of memory, guilt, and cyclical suffering. Beyond its supernatural scaffolding, Corpse Party is ultimately about human fragility. Memory plays a critical role. Those who escape Heavenly Host often find their memories of the dead erased or distorted, symbolizing society's tendency to forget or suppress tragedy. Survivors are thus condemned to a lonely kind of grief, unable to share or validate their trauma. Guilt is another recurring theme. Many spirits in Heavenly Host lash out because they were forgotten, betrayed, or left behind. The living characters, too, wrestle with guilt, whether survivors' guilt, guilt over past bullying, or guilt for selfish choices made in moments of fear. These emotional currents tie directly into the series' bad endings, where personal flaws often seal a character's fate. The cyclical nature of suffering is perhaps the most chilling aspect. The curse of Heavenly Host feeds on repetition, ensuring that tragedies are replayed endlessly across timelines. In this way, Corpse Party reflects the horror of unresolved trauma. The past will repeat itself until acknowledged, confronted, and exorcised. The franchise has not remained static. Titles like Book of Shadows and Blood Drive expand on the lore, introducing new dimensions, characters, and occult mysteries. While some critics argue that these later installments dilute the raw terror of the original, they also enrich the narrative by situating Heavenly Host within a broader mythology of dark magic and cursed objects. Spin-offs and adaptations, such as manga and anime, further complicate canon by offering alternative perspectives, retellings, or reinterpretations of events. This multiplicity reflects the fragmented nature of the lore itself. There is no single definitive truth, only overlapping shards of horror that mirror the broken timelines of Heavenly Host. Conclusion: why Corpse Party endures. The enduring appeal of Corpse Party lies in its ability to blend visceral horror with existential dread. Its lore is not merely window dressing, but an intricate system that reinforces its themes of memory, trauma, and repetition. Each death, each bad ending, and each haunting is a reminder of the fragility of innocence and the weight of unresolved grief. What began as a modest RPG Maker experiment has grown into a sprawling mythos that continues to unsettle players decades later. Corpse Party is not just about haunted schools and vengeful spirits. It is about the persistence of pain, the corruption of childhood, and the haunting truth that some wounds never heal, only echo.